Recently, we were in Uganda. I've been going back and forth there for over 20 years. At the time that we went first, the Lord's Resistance Army, you were probably aware through Invisible Children and other organizations that brought some attention to it, of this 20, 30-year civil war that involved the abduction of 40,000 young people and just so much death and destruction in the area. Um, and I got a chance while I was in Uganda to catch up with an old friend. His name is Richard Apire. But what is kind of interestingly about Richard, and you'll hear about it in the podcast, is he's the king of the Acholi people. Now, Acholi land is in the north, and that's where every violent uprising in Uganda has started. And then it sweeps to the south. So he's the guy up in the north. And so we just kind of get a little bit of time to reflect on what has been going on in Uganda, his hopes for the country, and our continued hopes there, and particularly in light of a university that we're starting there. We broke ground on it, and we're building a zoo. You heard it here first. And our hope is to take this huge ball of kids, I think 1,500 kids that go to our school there that are now from diapers. We want to take them through to a doctorate. And it's a big, audacious goal, but I mean, why not? So listen in as I talk to Richard Apire about Uganda and his hopes for his country. We were talking earlier about how it was 2002, so 20 years or more ago. You are the 26th king of the Acholi people, which is really quite a big deal.
It is.
And you invited us to come up to Acholi land at a time. Can you give us the setting? What was happening at the time that you started casting this idea about building a school?
Initially, you remember your contact with me was through Walter.
I do.
And when you got here, then we got together. And at that time, there was serious war going on. The government of then Obote was overthrown, and then Tito was also overthrown. So there was that rebellion generally, people to accept the present government. But eventually, you remember when we were traveling around, we had to stop in certain areas to check whether the situation is okay. Are we safe in this area? If we move ahead, what will happen? So it was very difficult. And then two, the roads generally. You remember we used to drive left and right, dodging.
It was awful. It was awful. It took so long, and you were a fast driver.
Yeah,
you just
had
you were
a new
on
car.
it. I remember. The one thing I would not want to be is your suspension. But we would drive up to Antioch, which is your ancestral kingdom, and being lost in these divots. And then not only that, but it was a time that we went up and you planted the idea for our first school. And it was a time that was very unsettled. Do you remember that we arrived and there was people with machine guns
all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was very, very worrying. So you don't know who they can turn out to be.
Yes, you just meet them in the bush, and there's a guy with them, and so you just stop and just say, if you're with the LRA, I'm just hoping you don't want to shoot me.
Don't do anything.
And then I remember going to, there's a place that you as the king still, I think, use. There's an ancestral tree, and where all the kings throughout the centuries have met. And so we reported what we were planning on doing, and we brought bags of, I don't know if it was rice or sugar.
Yes.
And then we left for 1 hour and did something, and then we came back and reported everything that happened since we last met.
It was gone.
Tell us the vision that you had for when it came to this region and having a school that would be here. What were you imagining 20 years ago?
You see, at that time, you can say nothing was functional. The schools were not operating. The teachers were not there. And people were generally on the run. Whenever they hear that the rebels are coming or the government troops are coming, they have to go and look for shelters. So that situation continued for a very long time. But my general worry was what is going to happen generations from now to the younger children. They need to go to school. They need to have a good health service. They need to have a good environment. So what would happen? That was the major worry. Gladly, you came. And your coming was an eye-opener. And the idea was initially to take you to Apire and build a school there. But the situation was impossible. So you couldn't do anything, and we decided that let's look for a nearby place around Gulu town, which is a lot safer. And that's when we started looking for land here. The lands near the town were a little bit more expensive, and it would be difficult. So we had a director of lands who was helping us, Dr. Kello. And he's the one who brought us here because I think his home is on the opposite side.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and initially there were problems when people were paid, and when the work started, there was a group that came and took away the wheelbarrows and what. So you know it worried you.
I was
but
like, darn it.
Yes, what is happening? Yeah, but then I said no. Let's not worry. It will work out.
Yes.
Gladly, what is this now?
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we're sitting on the deck of the guest house.
Beautiful place, beautiful place. When we came here and we walked around, it was all bush. There was no sign that anything reasonable would come to this place. But you put in your commitment, your resources, and ensured that a school is set up.
And I remember being together in the holdover from the British Commonwealth. Someone took a handful of dirt and they put it in my hands. And they said, it's your property now. And they said, now let's go walk the property. And I'm thinking snakes. Snakes everywhere. I'm like, let Uncle Richard go. And you didn't tell me.
No.
You're aware that the next part of this legacy that we're hoping to build for you and the Acholi people and beyond is a university. Why is that important in this region in particular?
Yeah, you know, in terms of education, this area is much lower in terms of education. The capacity and the ability for children to go to school and parents to pay is a big problem. And normally, if you wanted to have a good school, you had to send your children to Kampala. Now the school is here, and it is performing well. It has been performing exceptionally well in northern Uganda, and it competes with other schools in Kampala, in Uganda generally. And I think this is one of the biggest achievements. Secondly, there are other areas where the courses were difficult to get, and once the university starts, it opens for other faculties to be in. We have talked about veterinary medicine. There is the idea of the medical school, and generally financial areas, because government is always expanding, and you have heard about problems of respecting government resources, which is still a problem. So you need accountants and auditors to keep track on what is happening to resources that are coming. So that opportunity and ability to get people here to be educated is a tremendous development. Secondly, you remember when we came here, first of all, the roads were not there.
No, they weren't. The potholes were there.
All over. We were driving, zigzagging all over the place.
Doing 80.
Yeah. So now the roads are okay. And then secondly, you begin to see development, putting up iron sheets houses, changing the environment. This is an indication of people realizing that much as we live in these grass thatched houses, it is important to change, and changing into a more hospitable housing environment, housing homes, and generally environment. So the school here has brought a big change. If you see across the road, a lot of people have put up structures. They were not there. Yeah. And this is credit to you. Mm-hmm. Without you coming here, nothing would be in this place. Mm-hmm. And Amoro is very grateful. Initially, there was a problem, but eventually they realized the school was to benefit the society here, not for you, not for me, but for the community in general.
Yes.
It has made a significant difference, a lot of change,
yeah.
and a lot of satisfaction.
Well, we look back at 20 years behind, and I look forward 20 years from now. I think we'll be looking behind us and we'll see a university that is first class.
Completely.
Thank you.
And you know, that element brings in high-level teaching capacities, professors, lecturers, assistant lecturers. So there will be tremendous development in the area.
Yeah.
And that will definitely bring a big change to the society here.
Remember, we were down visiting somebody in Ultimate Authority. There was still tension between northern Uganda and the south. And I have a fond memory of sitting outside of this person, their office, and they were the top spot. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if instead of me just going, I bring the king of the Acholi people.
Yeah.
And it was working great until they found out you were the king of the Acholi, and they threw us out. I've been thrown out of better places than this. Oh my gosh. What did that feel like to you? Was that like we were on this adventure together? We were trying to create something that hadn't been created before, even bridges between people.
Exactly, between people. You know, unfortunately, society, you find it difficult to get along in society. There are people who are very accommodative and understanding, so they are able to accept others easily, but there are those who have what you call animosity.
Yeah.
And the heart of forgiveness is not there. The kindness to other people is not there. You find people are completely selfish. And that's one of those incidences that we had. Yeah, but, you know, a lot of things has changed.
But you know what I really like is the idea to fail trying rather than fail watching. And I think I've learned that in watching your life over decades as you're leading your people, that you try things. You just say, like, a bad day isn't that it didn't work. A bad day is that you didn't try. And so I think of the byproduct of that as peace is returned to northern Uganda, and people see, you know, this university we're going to build and all this. But knowing the backstory, at the time that we were up here, there were LRA fighters everywhere. There was unexploded ordnance.
Yes.
Remember when we bought the property? Yes. The first thing we had to
sweep, to check whether it's safe to go through. Because you could be blown off any time.
I want you driving the tractor. Well, I just want to thank you. Your kindness, your leadership, your legacy. I've said it before that we are your guests. On the day we arrived here 20 years ago, we were your guests then. And we will be your guests here until you tell us to leave. And I just want to thank you for your leadership and loving.
Why would I tell you to go away?
I don't know. Maybe there's some more mischief.
You know, I also want to take the opportunity to thank you, Bob, because you are a very wonderful man. You are a God-fearing person, very committed. And you remember the time you came, I was not yet, I had not wedded to Joanna.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally right.
So I was saying now, how do I sit with this man and talk about religion and all this? But, you know, God encouraged me.
Yeah, I did.
And we wedded, and I'm now a very happy man.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one. And then two, you have the idea of complete commitment to society. You want to bring change in society. You want to bring development in society. You want to bring health in society. And the only way you can do that is to give people chance to educate themselves. And this school has now produced a lot of graduates. You remember you told me that there are those who are now doctors, lawyers, and all kinds of professions. And this is something that has given me in particular great satisfaction. You know, there are very few people who have that kind of heart. And God gave you a wonderful heart.
Well, we are your legacy.
Yeah.
And long live the King. I just pray that Jesus gives you many, many days as you lead your people, and then you lead with love, because I know you love God, and it's evident in the things that you continue to do. And so we'll just continue to follow your lead around here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
I will be going to Canada because there is a conference coming in March next year. So when I finish there, I'll be coming through and check on you.
Come on, let's get into some mischief.
Thank you. Have you retained your office upstairs there?
Disneyland?
Flags? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was wonderful. The Uganda flag and the American flag.
Come on.
Yes. And you remember we worked on appointing you as a counselor in California.
Yes.
I wrote a letter.
Yes, it worked.
And they do what?
And have diplomatic immunity.
Exactly.
They can't even give me a speeding ticket around there. I shouldn't even have car insurance.
Initially, it was very difficult.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah, but
then they saw the king said, let's do this thing. They're like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, blessings on you.
Thank you very much.
People know you as your Royal Highness, and I know you in that respect, but I also call you my friend.
Yes.
So thank you for being a friend to so many.
And you greet Maria.
Oh, I will.
And the young man who was then still
learning
to fly.
That's it.
And now he has a family.
Richard, and Joanna and the kids. Blessings on you.
I will, definitely. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the bonus episode of the Love Does podcast, recorded in Uganda. You know, Love Does has been a part of a bunch of initiatives over the past many years, but none bigger than this. We're building a university. I was on a trip recently with Bob, and we got back, and I walked in my office, and there were 2 stuffed giraffes on my desk. So Bob wants a zoo too. So we're going to include some giraffes too. And in part because we're creating this university not just with academic excellence, but also with winsomeness and whimsy and wonder. Imagining a place that was once known for conflict will now be known for educating its future leaders. And it's right next to the primary and the secondary school. It's one of the most respected schools in the country, and we couldn't have created and built that school without you, and we can't build this university without you too. So if you want to know more and you want to get involved, go to lovedoes.org/university or reach out to us at hello@lovedoes.org. Thanks. And thanks for listening to the podcast.